Eat more chips, don't let the salad win. That's the message in terms of nature of the food maybe that we consume in Wales.
Oh, in Wrexham town they say there's a team that likes to play association football with precision. On the terraces they call, come on Nixie, hit that ball, and we're off to the second division. Oh, we'll see the Reds with me, and you will swear that you will see the vision. Top of Division 3, led by Arno Litti, we're off to the second division.
Hello and welcome to the Eat More Chips podcast, the official podcast, one of the greatest of all supporters flags in the universe. In a week when an Orthodox Christian monk was hospitalised following a violent confrontation at a monastic sanctuary in northern Greece in an incident that is tied to a decades-old religious dispute. Mount Athos is a self-governed monastic territory in Greece, home to centuries-old monasteries where monks live in devotion to prayer and spiritual life. At the centre of the ongoing conflict is another monastery whose brotherhood continues to defy court and church orders to vacate the premises. They refuse to recognise the authority over them from the spiritual home of the Eastern Orthodox Church, based in Istanbul in Turkey. This religious rift has led to repeated violent clashes, legal battles and supply blockades between members of the defiant brotherhood and the church-appointed replacements. The controversy, once began in the early 1970s, was compounded by court decisions against the rebel monks, who were sustained by donations from outside groups of supporters. The latest incident occurred late Thursday when a monk from the officially recognised brotherhood was attacked by rivals wielding gardening tools during routine groundskeeping work at an administrative building. All they need to help really is my two colleagues. I mean, let's be honest, they'd both be good in a religious punch-up, as they often spank the bald-headed monk and bash the bishop. It's Jamie and Daz.
I mean, those are phrases I've not heard for a long, long time. That's
I don't listen to you at the best of times when you're doing those intros, but after about take 27, I swear to God, I don't know what you just said.
It doesn't really matter. It's all fine. Gentlemen, welcome back. Hope you had a good week away. We go away for a week, and the second we pack our budgie smugglers and drizzle oil, Wrexham list their release players, which we'll talk about in a second. But Daz, I know you went up to Liverpool on Monday to be part of the bus parade to celebrate the Premiership win. Thankfully, you missed the awful events in the city centre at the end of the day when a car ran over a number of adults and children. I mean, trying to avoid that bit, unless you want to speak about it, but how was the actual day itself for celebration?
yeah. I mean, we went up on the Sunday, because I also wanted to experience the trophy lift and the final game of the season in Liverpool. We didn't go to the game; we didn't have tickets for the stadium, but we were in the city, and myself and my son, particularly, we're keen to be around at the crowd at that moment. I've been waiting 35 years for this, because obviously the 2020 win was marred with lockdown and everything, so it never quite was the same. And as a young 16-year-old in West Wales, I never dreamed about going to Liverpool for these kind of things. It's just bus parades and things. I mean, it just was a different time back in the early late 80s, early 90s. So I've been waiting 35 years plus, 40 years probably, in true honesty, to be able to do this. So it was something I wasn't going to miss. So to go to the city, I had a fantastic time, a whole bunch of pubs in a row with the game being played, live music. It was just spilling out into the crowds, smoke flares going everywhere. It was a brilliant, brilliant day. So we had a really good time. Sunday, harder because of the weather. The weather was making it a little bit, but everybody was up for it. So we had a really good time. So I was really pleased. And of course, it has been marred by the actions of a madman in a moment of madness that yes, I don't need to go into detail about it. I was fortunate enough, we were there earlier where the incident happened, much earlier in the day. We were nowhere near it as it happened. So we were safe, we were secure, and thanks to everybody who was asking after us when we were there. Yeah, it was challenging because oh God, the city was not ready for, as much as they knew that about 750,000 people were bound to come, or 1 million. It was over 1 million in the end, and so the city were not
Wow.
ready for that in public transport. So we got stuck. I didn't get home until, I didn't leave Merseyside until midnight. Didn't get back to Cardiff until 4. It was a long,
Oh.
long day, that one. So yeah, it marred by a few things, but I still do it. I still do it again. My other half's going for a bus. You went all that way for just, and it was quite quick. They kind of go past you really quickly, and there was a danger of not being able to see the top deck of the bus with the trophy because there was so much smoke. I mean, I'm, as much as I thought the smoke's great, yeah, it's good, I'm not a fan. Not anymore. Not anymore. There's a chance. There's a chance of me not seeing Mo Salah holding the trophy going past, and it was at minutes, literally seconds before the moment they went past. I couldn't see them coming down the road because there was so much smoke. I was thinking, don't you dare. Don't you dare. So anyway, managed to get a great opportunity to see most of the team. Partied with all the other fans and stuff. Shared it with my son. Really important moment. And yeah, glad we made the effort. But yeah, and obviously my absolute best wishes go to anybody that's been affected by whether or not they were there or not. I know a lot of people were impacted on the day. So of course, yeah, I was one of the lucky ones. So let's just hope everybody else makes it okay. But it sounds positive at the moment, which is a blessing anyway. But yeah, what a day! Waited such a long time, and I was glad I was there.
I mean, the good thing is, which we see, because obviously Liverpool, this isn't the first time things like this have happened to Liverpool. We can think about Heysel, we can think about Hillsborough. The football community all come together, which is great to see because everybody just rallies and and you see the good in football of what happens rather than, as you say, one mad man who
Yeah, and the number
something
of
something.
the number of Blues announcements that came out and supported, it's the whole city. There's always been something about, as much as I'm West Walian and us West Walians and North Walians are sort of quite strongly linked to Liverpool as a city because it tends to be the metropolis that we would all go to rather than say maybe Swansea or Cardiff and stuff like that. And yourselves probably have that same connection to the place, but it's just nice when you see a city like that get together. And to me, my one lasting image of that whole weekend is one little kid in a full kit of Everton kit with a blue flare, and just as the parade goes past, and I just thought, I don't care. I think that's beautiful. I think that's he can't have been more than 11 or 12, and he was just there going. And I just thought, you know what? Why not? Your city's been
That is a
completely
that is
overrun
a
by
true
red.
toffee.
What I mean?
That's a true
Yeah,
blue nose to do that.
yeah.
Trying to focus on the non horrible bit of the day. There was some amazing pictures from that from the event. I mean, like you say, like a million people, but I because of what I do for a living with photographs, I love photographs, and you've seen stuff I've taken at Wrexham and stuff. There was one for me which I don't know who took it, but it was on the official Liverpool socials, which was the Liver build, the top of the Liver building. You could just see it sort of like a silhouette through the red smoke, and it was just
It,
such a
it
nice
it
photo.
it reminded me of that famous picture of St. Paul's Cathedral after the
Yeah,
Blitz. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Where you see all of that smoke and you just see Christopher Wren's
yeah,
dome
yeah,
buildings that you just think, yeah, and the Liver building just poking through. It is phenomenal. And I've got a friend who got a picture from Birkenhead as well, and just looking at the whole of that side of the city, then looking across the Mersey, just an
yeah,
incredible smoke. And I think the Cunard, Queen Anne, is it the Queen Anne ship or something? But anyway, one of the Cunard massive ships was coming into port at the same time as well. So there's so much going on in the city. But yeah, some amazing imagery. Fans were great. Obviously, bevied up. There's a lot of joy about the game. You recently experienced that promotional joy, that celebration of just. But I think there was this release that was twofold because we didn't get to do it in 2020. So it felt like we were all doing it double whammy, and it really, really released itself. And that could have been part of the problem. I'm not going to say it's not. There was some tensions and people were going like, oh, this is. But absolutely, if you've got over 1 million people in a city, that there was always going to be a few people like, oh, I can't see you, I can't see. That's fine. Other incidences, yeah, there's no explanation for
I,
that. But go on.
I must admit, I'm not a Liverpool fan from a footballing perspective, but watching the game on Sunday, or certainly watching the presentation, I must admit that moment at the end where they put the trophy on the penalty spot in front of the cop and they all stood in a line whilst "You Never Walk Alone" was on. That was just like it. No matter who you support, if you've got some sort of a kind of interest in football, if that didn't get you in the field watching and listening to then you must have a swinging brick where your heart should be, because it was just incredible to watch
Yeah,
that.
yeah, and enhanced as well by the likes of Trent clearly saying, saying his goodbyes. Obviously Virgil having his moment. Mo Salah being, getting the boot, the playmaker, the matching Shearer's record and Andrew Cole's record in 38 games, not 42, if I might just add. Just big asterisks next to that one. Although my son, he did remind me that Andrew Cole managed to do that without any penalties, which I still think that actually kind of means that maybe he's the number one still.
He was a hell of a
Yeah,
player.
Why are
absolutely.
you why are you full naming him Andrew Cole? He was
That's what he
Andy
calls
Andy
Cole on
Cole.
himself
my
now.
day.
I
He called,
know,
yeah,
but
he called. That's what he does. Yeah, he
Does
does.
he?
yeah,
Yeah,
every stat now, if you look back through the record books now, they're calling him Andrew Cole. So
yeah.
I'm just respecting the man
Fair play.
because
Fair play.
he's a top guy. But yeah, no, just to see that. But I'm also, I know this. You guys probably won't care to so much. But I was watching a lot of those interviews on the pitch as well about I sensed 3 or 4 players were doing their interviews as if it was their goodbyes, because I do think Trent's the only one we know that's going. I think there's, I don't know. I think Kelleher, the goalkeeper's going. I think
Oh, definitely.
Andy Robertson's probably going. I think maybe Luis Diaz is going. So when these interviews are happening, you could see, and Nunes, Darwin Nunes, who I love to bits because he's just a character, but a liability. But I love him, absolutely love him. But they were all hinting, suggested. There was just some of the language, some of the body language. I think there was a lot more goodbyes going on there than we knew. But Trent, 20 years of service, a phenomenal player, has completed football. Let's be honest, has completed football, apart from a World Cup, apart from a sort of an England, win, which I don't mind if he misses those. That's okay. That's okay. But in terms of domestic game, he has finished football completely with that one club, and he has my blessing to go to the next club to do it again if he wants to. So yeah, so thank you to him. But yeah, it was marred with lots of emotions, like you said. But when you've got a crowd like that who are up for it, and it was, the intensity was up because of the way it happened last time and the way we missed out. So yeah, it was phenomenal. I wasn't going to miss it. It was definitely something I've been planning to say 35, 40 years in the making. So yeah, so yeah, and I've got a tale to tell, and my son's going like, traveling back at whatever time of the morning it was, he's going like, I'm glad we went, and I went, thank God for that, because at 4 o'clock in the morning, putting up outside the house, I'm going, you bloody hope you did enjoy the trip, because yeah, but no, to be able to share it with him as well, that was really good.
Well, Rob and Ryan have done the rounds on the podcasts over the last few weeks. I guess we fell off the list.
No, they haven't. No, they haven't. Look, and I'm just, no, I'm product placement here. Look.
Okay, Rob and Ryan, if you're listening, please come on. Just 5 minutes. We just want to ask you where you get your hair done. Although there have been some other brilliant interviews. I'm not sure if any of you have seen the Fearless Boys interviewing Ellis James this week, which is excellent. Go and have
It's
a
still
look
in
at
my
that.
list to watch.
Yeah, Ellis James obviously talks about, Swansea and what he thinks of the documentary and all that kind of stuff, which is great. Jamie, we now know who the 23 other clubs will be facing next season. They are, in alphabetical order, Birmingham City, Blackburn Rovers, Bristol City, Charlton Athletic. Congratulations to them on getting through the playoffs. Coventry City, Derby County, Hull City, Ipswich Town, Leicester City, Middlesbrough, Millwall, Norwich City, Oxford United, Portsmouth, Preston North End, Queen's Park Rangers, Sheffield United, Sheffield Wednesday, so 2 trips to Sheffield next season, Southampton, Stoke City, Swansea City, Watford, and West Bromwich Albion. If you want to bet, Wrexham are currently 13-2 to get promoted. I mean, who on earth is putting odds on like that? And 16-1 to win the championship, if anybody wants to put a pound on. Jamie?
16-1. Jesus
16-1 to win the championship. 16-1. Yeah, that's crap odds. Jamie, with those clubs, initial thoughts? How do you feel now you know who the other 23 are?
It's
There they are in all their
it's that
glory.
graph. Yeah, it's that graphic. It's when you see that graphic. Obviously, for audio listeners, we've just put up a graphic of all the crests from the club that are in the championship. It's when you see them like that, and you go through them one by one, and you just think to yourself, "Wow," you know. It, it's really difficult because I think, we've got to be careful not to, not to be defeated before we've even kicked the ball, because as we proved last season, anything can happen. I still haven't got a clue yet. I've been giving it some thought, and I know we're going to go into it in more detail as we approach the start of the season. I still haven't really got a clue where I honestly think we're going to finish. But when you look at some of the history, and strength and depth and size of some of those football clubs, I mean, unbelievable. The only disappointment I've got is, and in the nicest possible way, is that Sunderland went up, because I would have loved to have gone to the Stadium of Light. Charlton winning in the playoffs. Charlton as a football club, I ain't really got a problem with, but I just cannot abide Nathan Jones.
Yeah.
And the fact that whole circus thing is going to be back on the agenda for 2 occasions next season is a bit of a crapper. But yeah, just look at some of those names. I think. Am I right in saying? I'm sure I read somewhere this week that we're the only club in the Championship that hasn't played in the top flight.
That's correct. Of all the
Yeah,
24 clubs, we're the only team who have never played in either Division 1 as it
yeah.
was or the Premiership.
Yeah, I mean, it's still. I mean, at this stage of the summer, it's still way too early to make a realistic assessment on how we're going to approach it. I mean, all the noises that are coming out of certainly Rob and Ryan seem to be suggesting that they're going to pull the pin and they're going to go for it the same as they have previously. I guess 6-8 weeks time, when we see the kind of caliber or what kind of player we've brought in, who's gone, maybe we'll have a bit more of an understanding of how realistic that potentially could be. But yeah, just from the point of view of, I mean, looking at those names, looking at those clubs, some of the history that's on that screen, some of the potential away days that are coming up, and clubs visiting the Kairos. I mean, Christ, this stadiums there of people we're going to be playing in the league next season. Not that long ago, we were praying to get them in an FA Cup game just as we could have a big day out. And now that they just one after the other next year. So super exciting, but super daunting at the same time. And I think you've got to be realistic and say, if you're not a little bit daunted by that, given what's happened in the last few years, then I'm not quite sure I'd believe you. But yeah, exciting.
Yeah, but big smile on my face when I look at that, because I think what an absolutely hallowed group we're amongst, and the bad memories of Hayes and Yedding and Dover and Aldershot. Thank you very much, but no,
Oh God, yeah.
Dad,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Daz, as Jamie just said, some really big names in there, including the 3 clubs that have come down from the Premiership: Leicester, Southampton, and Ipswich, and of course Sheffield United, who came down from the Prem the year before that. Not sure if you watched Liverpool play any of the sides in the season just gone. How do you think Wrexham will cope against sides that have the parachute payments and are used to playing at the top level so recently?
Yeah, I think the parachute payments is a really important thing to look at, because that naturally gives them a huge advantage. I mean, it's for the last few years, it's been quite similar teams bouncing back up and down, whether it's your Leicester's going up and down, or Leeds and stuff like that. So it's obviously something about the Premiership A-listers, and then you've got this secondary thing, and then there's the nearlies, and you've got Leicester, who's one of those recently. We've got Southampton, which is obviously Ipswich probably didn't. I quite enjoyed watching Ipswich last year. I do think that there was a certain spirit about their game, but they probably felt the one team out of place. Then you've got teams such as West Bromwich Albion, who have been there recently. Norwich, who've been there recently. So there's a sense that those teams are another level. There's whatever the division we're talking about within the Championship, you've got the ones who are genuinely pushing for promotion, and I am going to probably put Norwich in that mix. Sheffield United is going to be in that mix. Leicester's going to be in that mix. Then there's probably a big old group of teams then that are all going to be the also-rans, but I just think they're a level behind, and unless they invest, and this is, like Jimmy said, you don't know what they're going to be like when you get to the point of the start of the season. I mean, I got caught out last year, but with trying to work out what was going to happen with League One. You can try and make as many predictions as you want, but until you know what level of investment they're prepared to put in, and hearing the words that Wrexham might be and the owners might be putting a bit of money into this, that's what it's going to need. Birmingham have already shown that. The likes of Watford or Middlesbrough. I mean, they're teams that you just think they've got the pedigree, and they are beginning to invest. They get quality managers, former Premiership players themselves. So there is some significant quality in that side. So Wrexham are absolutely outgunned at the moment. Unless they strengthen the squad, it is going to be a really tough call, because there are teams there that they're going to retain. Leicester will retain. Ipswich will retain a lot of their players, not all of them, but they will retain a lot of players who held their own in the Premiership level. And so you're talking about playing League One last season with players that you've got, and then you're playing against teams that that have got arguably Premiership players. There's a gulf there, and unless you sort of build around the quality players you brought in, and I know some of those players were brought in with Championship in mind. But you've got, I think you've got a fair bit of work to do, and I'm sure your retain list, sort of the numbers that you're looking to replace, suggests that the teams have got, the team's got ambition, because there's a lot of places that they're keeping open, ready for some new names. So very exciting indeed.
Don't be afraid to cry now, even when the world comes crashing in. Don't forget to sing when you win.
So, welcome to Wrexham Season 4 has started, with the first 3 episodes already dropped. All In, which covers the very start of the season, and Rob and Ryan talking about the financial costs now of being in what was then League One. High Hopes, where the big story is about Wrexham and Birmingham City, Tom Brady and obviously Rob and Ryan getting together, plus a small Ukrainian family who start a coffee business in the middle of the town. And then my favourite episode so far, which I'm sure Jamie will talk about in a second, last week, Disney FC, which was a massive FU to all the haters. I don't like this.
You might as well swear, because I'm going to when I get to it.
I'm not a fan of Disney either, but do you know what? It was brilliantly done. We'll talk about it in a second. Obviously, it's also been announced this week that a 5th season has now been greenlit. So our Championship season, whatever that may happen in the next 9 months, will be covered in Season 5. Daz, you've managed to watch the first 3 episodes, you told me earlier. What are your thoughts and the thoughts of Family James on the series so far?
Yeah, it's been good. We watched them last night, I think. Actually, literally back to back, all 3. And it was good, because the girls had just been aware that of stuff had been happening, and the teams were doing well, and but not really a finger on the pulse about what's going on with the club. It's not on their radar in the same way. So for them to kind of join in and watch it's kind of a first watch for them, which is great. And I'm sat there going, yeah, no, this is good, because this is a 1-0, and that's a 1-0, and don't worry, the next one's so there's a few results I can remember, which I don't know why.
Were you hugging the chip shop trophy as you were watching it? Were you doing
no, maybe I'll do that in future, but
Sipping a brew out of it.
Yeah. But no, it was good, and because obviously it was a really good sort of rollover from the previous, and just gave us a nice recap. There was some major changes in the staffing that we've covered on the pod, in terms of chief executives leaving and the new ones coming in, and I thought that was quite a nice feature about your man from America after coming via Milan, and the household immediately just went, he knows how to pronounce Milan properly as well, because it was like Milan. It was like he's obviously somebody who's lived there, because we loved it. It was properly pronounced. There were some familiar faces in the crowd, if I may just say, as well. So that was quite nice to see some familiarity and stuff. But yeah, it was really good, and I think obviously the good stories about the community are still there, which I know for some people are a distraction from the football journey. But I think if we keep remembering that the success of the club is born out of it being a heart of this, of the city, of the town. It is an important part of weekly, daily, weekend life, is going to the football. So I do think there's a really lovely honouring of the people who have supported the club all through this time. And you mentioned the Ukrainian family that relocated, and I have a connection. I work with somebody in where I am, and they're a Ukrainian refugee, and so so there's it's important to just show and highlight that what an amazing and inclusive community that Wrexham has become, or always has been, but just emphasize that even more. So there's some really nice touches all the way through, and then I too am not a Disney fan, but the tongue-in-cheek nature of it, and the one or the two, whatever, all of those lovely moments, I just think, why not? Why not? You own this platform, you own the club. You can do what you want in these moments, and if you want to have a go at the naysayers, if you want to have a go, you do it in whichever way you want. You have every right. And to be honest, the answers you've given on the pitch have earned you the right to say whatever you want in the press in that way, because you've got promoted. So it's not a case of like you're all you're all talk and not doing any walking. You guys are walking substantially. So there's an element of ownership of that. And so yeah, so far 3 episodes in, really enjoying it. Can't wait for the next ones, and also to see how your big man's doing the marathon in Manchester and stuff. And that is just the funniest thing ever at the moment.
The resources he's been given for that, though, are
I know.
ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
Mad.
Incredible.
Mad. And the flag made it on twice in the first episode, 2 separate matches, which was lovely to see. Jamie, Disney FC, what a brilliant episode. What amazed me, and not just the Disney bit, which we're going to talk about in a second, but it's also the fact that how hard it actually hit me that we lost Jack Marriott, Arthur Okonkwo, and Callum Burton in fairly quick succession, and still managed to sort of stay afloat. I think was quite remarkable. But thoughts on Disney FC? 1, 2, 1.
Well, first and foremost, what have you two got against Bambi? That's a bit cruel, isn't it? Why do you not like Disney? Some fond moments from Disney over the years. No, look.
Our sister's a massive fan, isn't she, Jamie? She's a massive fan of Disney. But
yeah.
I've never liked Bambi ever since they did the video nasty.
That's a Young Ones reference, everybody. Young Ones reference.
No one is going to get that in a million years. Even I even know what that you're talking about there, but no one's going to get that in a million years. Look, that I think Daz has summed up episodes 1 and 2 perfectly. That some right. 1 in particular was a really good recap of last season and a good intro into this season. There were a few sort of key things that I took out of that first episode. I think the Peter Moore interview on Rob Ryan Red, the little snippet of that was interesting, because I remember listening to that at the time. You listen to what he was talking about the infrastructure and how important it is to get the infrastructure right if Wrexham continues to grow. And he references, particularly if you get to the Championship and beyond, and you think, we're not much further down the line 12 months on than we were this time last year. So that was really interesting. I thought the reminder about Arthur Okonkwo signing as well. I think that was a bit overshadowed at the time about how significant of a signing that was. I know it was free, but I think we said this before, he shouldn't have come to us in a million years. So they've obviously, really pushed the boat out, and I'm sure given him an incredible package, but made him feel that it was the place to be. And then there was obviously that Zoom call, which, look, it was heavily staged for the documentary. And let's not kid ourselves that Rob and Ryan were writing a personal check for 50 million quid, but the insight into their mentality of let's go for it. It was pretty eye opening. Like you say, the second episode was a good follow on. Little connections still to the community and how the two are now intertwined. Like you say, with the Ukraine. I'll just call them the Ukrainian family, not the little Ukrainian family, because that sounds like you were being rude to them when you said little Ukrainian family.
Sorry about that. Apologies.
Yeah,
Apologies, Ukraine.
But yeah, episode 3, Disney FC. I mean, it was one of the best things I've seen on TV for some time. Like you said, it was a big fuck you with bells on to all the haters. And I've written this down because I need to quote this line by Rob. The rest of you jaded pricks can go and fuck your fucking selves is one of the best things I have ever heard in my life. So yeah, kudos. But it was genius, wasn't it? It was genius. It was what they are very, very good at. They are very they're very forthcoming in saying we don't know anything about football. We leave that to the people who know about football. We employ people who can do that side of it. But what they are good at is marketing, is telling stories, and by God, this highlighted it because it was there was an element of humour to it, poking fun at themselves and at the Disney side of that we've been subjected to now for years, but also keeping it intertwined and continuing to tell key bits of the story were brilliant, and like you said, the reminder about losing Jack Marriott, first of all. I mean, he started the season so well and what could have been. And obviously that we saw the little CCTV clip, didn't we, from the training ground of when it happened, which I don't think we'd ever seen before. So that was kind of give a bit of insight into what had happened and really bad for him. But then, like you said, to lose Arthur and then Callum Burton in such a short space of time was we look back now and we think, oh, it was all good, but that could have completely derailed our season. Absolutely derailed our season. But brilliant episode. I think it was nice to get a little introduction to the Allen family. Obviously, we're quite aware of them now from as time's gone on. But I think even though it was only very brief, I think what it showed was, for me, is I think it emphasised Rob and Ryan's commitment to wanting to do what's best for Wrexham Football Club. Because as we know, it's been common knowledge, they've had lots of offers of investment from God knows who, and they've said no. Yet they've strategically chosen the Allen family, and I think it's because they've obviously done their due diligence. They've got to know them. They've got to find out what they're about, and they come across as, okay, they're insanely wealthy, which is obviously great if you're an investor, but they come across as very, very genuine, sincere people. And I think it was the quote from Eric Allen for me, which he said, the key thing is growing the club but retaining the local culture, and that for me just highlights how in tune he is with what we need going forward, rather than just money. It's not just about money. There's more to it than that. And then obviously there was Parky's interaction with that lovely lady from Stockport. The bit that got me was the Parky saying to her, "You're supposed to be a lady," which was brilliant. But then if you listen very closely, and you might have even missed this, you'll have to go back and listen to it, but the cherry on the cake there was somebody sat round by there that said, "Who told you that?" So when Parky shouts back to her, "You're supposed to be a lady," one of the other crowd goes, "Who told you that?" Which to me was priceless. But no, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm not going to say it's the best ever episode, because for me, there were so many. There've been so many sort of personal stories told. Jordan Davis, James Jones, and they're really powerful. The Arthur Massey one as well for me was
That's my favourite.
a
That's
really
still my favourite.
powerful one.
Yep.
So I don't want to label this as the best ever, but it's certainly up there, and it was really, really, really well done. Absolutely brilliant. So yeah, really looking forward to the next.
I quite like the bit where the Allen family are meeting people at the ground, and then he says the moment he spots Wayne over
Wayne.
the
Yeah.
shoulder, and I just love the fact that Wayne is now probably
Yeah.
the number one star of the show in that way in his eyes. He said
Yeah.
he's a real celebrity here, and he wants to. I just thought that was lovely, but clearly they've done their homework. You're absolutely right,
The,
and
the,
and their track record of investing in family based and community
yeah.
based, it's reassuring in Syracuse or
Yeah.
New York or whatever they've done that work. It's been amazing.
Absolutely. And the other thing which I forgot to mention was that I picked up on in episode 1, which I had to rewind it because I thought I'd misheard it. But when they're talking about it's the obviously the intro from Mike Williamson, and he's talking about what's required, academy, training ground, and all that jazz. And there was the explanation that the players go to the ground, get changed, drive to Collier's, train, and then drive back to the ground to get showered. And I'm thinking, hang on, this was a League One club doing this, and we're now in a situation where we're going to have a Championship club doing it. I mean, that really puts a spotlight on how massive that is, that they've got to sort something out there. Do they not have showers at Collier's?
They do, sort of, but not to the standard, really. They're kind of just little tiny ones, and also they belong to the FAW. So, and you don't forget, Wrexham rent the place, so they rent certain bits of the FAW. They don't rent it all.
I just
So,
got
I mean,
visions of how it used to be at school when we were all doing
Yeah, it's
PE,
a bit-
and they're all in these
it's a
like
bit
shitty little showers. I was just going
it's
nah.
a bit weird, to be honest. It's a bit weird, to say the least. Daz, as I mentioned earlier, they've now greenlit season 5.
Great news.
Do you feel that might be the last? Do you think it was starting to run its course now?
Ask me after you get your next promotion. Well, I mean,
Wow.
that's the reality, isn't it? I mean, if the story keeps on going and there's a story to be told, they'll just keep telling it. I think the only way you can improve and take it to the next level, because the formula works. There's only so much, but I think the step from Championship to Prem, surely that experience in the Prem's got another series in it, because we're talking about the Liverpools, the Man U's, the Man Cities. I mean, you could do a very different feel about it, about competing against the big guns. It could be less about the community, and it could be about how has this team possibly done this. Now, that is a leap, an absolute cavernous leap from where the team is at the moment. So I have to be realistic there.
I think they've been very clever with the way they've done it, though, because after they commissioned the first 2 seasons, they've done it one at a time after that. And I think as soon as we got promoted, it was always going to be renewed, because they would not want to follow the first season in the Championship. Because if by some crazy miracle, and like I say, I'm not expecting it, but if by some crazy miracle we're fighting again, then it's going to make great viewing, and it must still be getting good eyes on it for them to do it again.
Now, on the Eat More Chips podcast, it's time for today's newspaper, tomorrow's chip paper, where we catch up on Cymru and Wrexham football news. And boy, there is a lot of it.
Just before you get into the news, I've got a bit of news for you.
Are you pregnant?
No, despite what I might look like. Live news for you. I've just seen a notification pop up on my phone, and this just made me chuckle, that I've got to tell you now. Guess who's just followed us on X?
Who's just followed us on X?
Abby Iddington.
Hi, Abby. Hi. Anytime you want to come on and teach me how to say your second name, that'd be great. And guess what? We're going to mention it a fair bit in the next half an hour or so, because of the fact that what you've won. So yes, anyway. Hi, Abby. Welcome to the club. Anyway. Exactly. Craig Bellamy has announced his squad for the next 2 World Cup qualifiers versus Liechtenstein and the Crunch game, which I am massively massively looking forward to away at Belgium. Bellamy welcomes Ethan Ampadu and Harry Wilson back into his squad, with the Leeds United captain and the Fulham attacking midfielder being injured for the opening games of the campaign in March. While two of Bellamy's key men return, Captain Aaron Ramsey is missing through injury, and of course there is no Joe Allen after he announced his retirement earlier this month. Craig has named Cardiff City teenager Ronan Capaccio. I can never say his name. He's another one. Ronan Capaccio in his squad, with the right back who turned 18 this week included for his first time, having been part of Wales's training camp in Spain earlier this month. Capaccio has only 6 senior Cardiff City appearances to his name. He's made his debut in the EFL Cup last August before his first league start came on the final day of the championship season. So, the squad in full: Carl Darlow, Danny Ward, who of course has been just released by Leicester City, Adam Davis, Nico Williams, Jay Da Silva, Connor Roberts, Ronan Capaccio, Ben Davis, Chris Mepham, Ben Cabango, Joe Roden, Josh Sheehan, Charlie Crew, Ethan Ampadu, Jordan James, Ollie Cooper, Harry Wilson, David Brooks, Sorba Thomas, Liam Cullen, Nathan Broadhead, Lewis Kumas, Rabbi Matondo, Kiefer Moore, Mark Harris, Brennan Johnson, and Daniel James. And hopefully a couple of those names might end up being Wrexham players by the start
I
of
was
the
going to
season.
say, Wrexham's Kiefer Moore.
I can say you never know. Daz, couple of surprises, but a strong enough squad, do you think, particularly to take on Belgium away?
Well, hang on. You've leapt a bit there. Straight to Belgium. What about the mighty Liechtenstein first?
Sorry. Are we? Did you say you're going? By the way, did you say you're going to that?
The home game, yeah.
Oh, fine. That's okay. Cool. So am I. So that's great.
Yeah, no, definitely going to that. No, looking forward to that because I had to miss some recent games, so it'd be good to get back there. Yeah, no, I mean, in terms of surprises, I suppose Capaccio is the standout name, youngster who's clearly shone for City. I heard a soundbite of Bella's talking about him saying, he's an athlete. He's very athletic. He's it's the type of player that I can see Bellamy sort of relying on in the future. But I think that's going to be legacy. That's about having somebody around the camp, learning from these senior players. So I think that's news, but it's a long game. That's the long game. I think in terms of the short term, wonderful sort of success stories of recent note. We can't sort of ignore the fact that your Ben Davises and Brennan Johnson have just won a major European tournament. So they'll be riding high on that.
Wrexham's Ben Davis.
He's out of contract, isn't he? Apparently, he's out of contract at Tottenham. So
I would put money on Swansea getting there first.
Oh, whoa, Daz! Don't say the S
your
word.
mouth out.
Because he came from Swansea and he'll go back to Swansea. That's all. He's got a history there. Anyway, if that's what happens, that's what happens. But you've got two players there on a high, and also not forgetting all the other players, Burnley, the Leeds players who have all been promoted back to the Prem from so that's Connor, that's Cardallo, that's Rodon, Ampadu, Dan James, and there's somebody else. Chris Mepham. They're all players who have made it back to the Prem, which is great because one of our, I'm not going to say it's a weakness, but it's certainly a judgment, a criticism of our national side is that as much as we're playing brilliant football as a team, we are playing a lot of those games with championship players when actually our ambition should be, a good number of the Welsh players should be playing in the Premiership. And so we've got that again. But I sense that from Bellamy's conversation, all of those championship players are all still in contention, and everybody in that squad's got a part to play. So yeah, I think it'd be it's nice to get a bit of a warm up. As much as Liechtenstein is a mighty team, we're playing at home, so I imagine we'll win. But it's an important opportunity for us to get the squad together again, build up that unity, maybe try some different formations again. Bellamy's not been afraid to sort of shuffle it up a little bit. With a then significant game then against Belgium on the horizon afterwards, and it's a real test, the Belgium game. Obviously, you've alluded to it already, but we've got a near full strength squad now, really. I mean, apart from Rambo, since the retirement of Joe Allen, but Rambo's the other senior player. There's not really that many players that I can think of that that would immediately step back into it. Because we've got Brooks back, we've got some informed players in terms of, Matondo or Cullen or Broadhead. They've all had some decent seasons, but they're not necessarily your first choice team. So, that's. I think we're in a good position. I'm glad it's that way around, where we've got Liechtenstein, we've got the home game. Actually, it's the home game I'm more excited about first. Build up that momentum. Doesn't matter who we were playing against. I think the home game first, and then to go away to Belgium. I've got a few friends who are going. Very envious of them. They don't have proper jobs, so that's why. But they're going to have a great time because away trips to Belgium never fail. They're absolutely quality. But I'm really keen to see the likes of we've missed Harry. We've missed, Harry Wilson's, Ethan Ampadu's sort of like solidity in the middle. So if we can get them back in, I just think to see what Bellamy does now with this full, near full strength squad. There's nothing. There's nothing to stop him being a bit more experimental against Liechtenstein, and making the most of say different types of players we've got. You've got your big man Kiefer. You've got your pacey men in terms of Brennan Johnson. You've got the likes of playmakers in terms of Brooks and stuff like that who can make something happen. Sorber on the wing and stuff. So we've got range, we've got options, and that's really exciting. So looking forward to next week.
It's been a while since I've seen Cymru play live, so that's what I'm looking forward to most. Getting back to
When are
Cardiff
those
Stadium
games? What date?
June,
Friday
week after next. Yeah.
Friday 6th is the Liechtenstein one.
I was going to say, these lads are going to be dying for holiday.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely.
You start pre-season soon.
I can say. As soon as we down tools and went on holiday, Wrexham duly released a number of players for the 2025-26 season. Of players offered contracts, academy players Tom Kelly, Alex Moore, Rio Owen and Max Purvis have all been offered new contracts. An offer was made to Elliot Jones, but he's elected for a career change, so he didn't accept. Of the senior players, Callum Edwards has been offered a new contract. The club has exercised the option to extend Aaron James's contract for another season, and James Rainbird will remain under contract while he recovers from his current injury. But the real sadness was the players released by the club. From the academy, Keane Hazeldine, which I'm really surprised about, Regan Nicholas, Bryn Owen, Harry Roberts and Anton Tierney have all been released. Of the senior players, Sam Dolby was offered a contract in January but turned it down, so he's not coming back. Goalkeepers Brad Foster and Liam Hall. Under 21 player Josh Adam, who signed last year, and ex-academy player Harry Dean have also all been released. But the saddest departures of all, the Coedy assassin Jordan Davis, who was fundamental to the success of Wrexham between 2020 and 2025, making 121 appearances and scoring 28 goals before being loaned out to Grimsby last season. Goalkeeper Mark Howard, who joined Wrexham in 2022, played a key role in 3 successive promotions, covering both as number 1 and reserve keeper during his 3 years. And the one that's really had the most impact with fans, Stephen Fletcher, who joined the club as a free agent in 2023 and has become a fan favourite, particularly last season, as he regularly came off the bench and scored key goals on numerous occasions. Jamie, always difficult to say goodbye to players that have become favourites. Of the list of those who have been kept or released, before we talk about those we haven't heard from, any surprises on any of those names?
I think even though I don't disagree with it, I am a little bit surprised that Fletcher wasn't given another year. Particularly given the fact that I think it's pretty evident he would have done another year, because if you look at his, the statement he put out, I think the first sentence said, not by my choosing or something along them lines, which would...
Right, well, hang on. We have to be careful here, right? Because that can be interpreted in 2 ways. That could be interpreted as the club didn't offer me a contract, but it also could be interpreted as my body can't do it anymore.
Okay,
so I can't do it anymore.
Okay,
so just be careful. We just need to be careful. I don't want to, jump to guns.
No, okay, it's a fair point for to make sure we don't get in any bother, but you're wrong. No, because if it was down to his body, he would have come out and said, "I'm retiring." In my opinion, that would have been what he would have said. That suggested to me, because you got to remember when we signed him in, like you say, 2023, he was pretty much retired anyway, and we managed to convince him to do another season. And as it's turned out, he's had, by his own admission, 2 of the best seasons of his career. And I think I'll rephrase it. My interpretation of his statement was that I think he wanted to do another year, but I think the club have decided that they need the space or the money to invest in something else. I'll be careful how I say it, something better, something younger, whatever. But I think it was one of those difficult decisions that has to be made from time to time in football. You said it yourself before, unfortunately, it is one of the sad and difficult things when you're a football fan is, like you say, saying goodbye to your heroes. Daz spoke at the offset about Trent Alexander-Arnold with Liverpool. Different scenario, but the same kind of thing where that's somebody that the Liverpool fans have lauded for the last 10 years. With Fletch, somebody we've adored for the last 2 years, particularly last season. I mean, we spoke not long ago, didn't we, about would we have got promotion? Would we have got automatic promotion without his goals last year? No, we wouldn't. So although his body wouldn't allow him to do 90 minutes anymore, that impact he was having on the pitch and seemingly off the pitch, because I've heard and read quite a bit that he was quite a big character in and around the playing squad. I think his experience would have been invaluable for some of the other players, even the likes of Mullin, who okay, he's experienced in his own right, but if you're Paul Mullin and you're able to bounce excuse me, you're able to bounce things off of Stephen Fletcher, who's got a 7 or 8 year additional footballing career. He played at the very top level as an international footballer. That's invaluable that some players won't get again. So I was a little bit surprised with the outpouring. It was a very strong, very strong outpouring with it. I mean, I don't know if the missus has stopped crying yet. She's been crying since he left. There was a massive outpouring, slightly more than I expected, but I get it. That's the one I'm surprised at. Like you said it yourself there, the other 2 names, that no disrespect to anyone else, but I think the Jordan Davis one, it was inevitable. We knew it was going to happen, and I genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, I hope he finds fitness, and I hope he finds somewhere where he can go on and reignite his career. Because, like you say, if you go back to that, what was it, the 21-22 season?
21-22, yeah, he was vital. He was vital.
He scored 20-something goals from midfield, didn't he? And he sort of single-handedly carried us through that season. He was unbelievable, and unquestionably it contributed in the seasons after that. Look, you have to face realities. We've had the debate about Mullin and Palmer and other players. Elliot Lee, is the level that we've got, is it a level too far for them? You've got to ask yourself that question with Jordan. Is League One a level too far from him? I don't know. That's not a question I'm asking to answer. But I think I just genuinely, and there won't be a Wrexham fan anywhere that will say anything else, but I just genuinely hope he finds some fitness and that he finds he gets a move to a club that fits for him and his family and for his career, and he goes on to better things. And then Mark Howard is the other one. Again, I wasn't surprised. I wasn't really surprised. Again, same thing. Didn't play an awful lot last season, although, as we talked about in the documentary before, he still had to come in for some games and still played his part. I feel a bit for Mark Howard. I think he got quite a lot of unfair criticism in his time at Wrexham. I think if you go back and you look at his time, he was replaced at every opportunity. If you go back to Rob Layton, as soon as Rob Layton was fit, he was back in the team. And I look at that and I think that's quite harsh. Well, I say harsh. I think spin it another way. I think what you should take from that is how much of a testament that is to Mark Howard's professionalism and what kind of person he is. Because no matter how much he kept coming into the team when he was asked to, he came in and he did his utmost. And then whoever was fit, and he'd get dropped again. And he never grumbled, he never moaned, and he got on with it, and he was professional all the way through. And again, another one that doesn't seem to have suggested that he's retiring. So, hopefully, if he's going to go on to do another year or two somewhere else, again, I hope he gets a move that is right for him, and he finishes out his career in a good way. But yeah, not overly surprised, and I understand all of them really. Yeah.
Daz, obviously talking about Stephen. Let's talk about Stephen Fletcher. Two questions for you. One: if Wrexham, if let's say Stephen Fletcher is fit, so it's not a fitness issue. If Wrexham hadn't been promoted and would have stayed in League One, would he have been offered another contract? Or was it always going to be a fact that if we'd have got to the Championship, there was no place for Stephen Fletcher due to his age?
Not necessarily about his age, but it's clearly, by the way that he's been brought on as an impact player, he can't play 90 minutes. And I think, or at least consistently. And I think that you need players at this level who all can play consistently 90 minutes plus. And if they can't bring that full game, then I don't think you've got the scope. I don't think you can carry anybody in that same way. You've already alluded to the fact that he's a hugely successful and charismatic player. He's obviously well liked. He's a former international, captained his country. What he brings, what McLean brings. These players have come with so much experience and that wisdom to the group that those you can't. Those players have yet to experience what those guys have played. So to be able to have somebody around the team with that level is invaluable. But it does sense that unless they've got some sort of capacity to play the full game, I just don't know if you can afford in the squad to carry anybody. And I think that's the brutal truth.
That's the best way of putting it. You can't carry players, and that sounds a bit disrespectful, but ultimately this is what sets the top managers out, because they have to make these calls. It would have been really easy for Wrexham to for a sentimental perspective, give him another 12 months, but that's a squad place and then a wage that's being taken up by a player that, exactly like Daz just said, his body will not allow him to play a 90-minute game, and you can't afford to carry. It's a horrible way of putting it, but it's the absolute bang on way of putting it. You can't afford to carry players
Unless there was a role in a coaching capacity that he could have perhaps been associated with the club, whether it was, maybe with the youth squad, but being around the first team as well, bringing that level of experience, but knowing he realistically isn't going to be playing, then there could have been a way of keeping him around the club. I think that has a lot of merit, but not taking up a squad place and stuff like that. And it's the same with Mark Howard. I think as much as he's been an incredible servant, we all know he is not of the level. He's different to Fletcher. Fletcher is a class act who can still turn on that level of quality. Howard, as much as you all love him and what he's contributed, he is not a championship goalkeeper. In fact, there were times where you questioned he was even national. Well, not maybe National League's a bit harsh on him, but certainly League Two, there was plenty of conversations going on about whether or not he was that quality, and yet he stepped up in League One. Can he do it in Championship? Clearly, they don't feel that, and so I do hope, though, that of course you've got two goalkeepers coming back from injury, so that makes that means the consequence of that position is less. But I'm imagining they've got eyes on a third choice goalkeeper somewhere, whether it's coming through the academy, whether it's a signing. But there's probably another young Okonkwo, lonely type player that you can get from maybe a Prem side. Because now you're Championship, you can probably nick the pockets of some of these big clubs in the same ways you did Arsenal all that time. I mean, Jamie said it. How that happened the first time, it still remains the great mystery and one of the greatest bits of movement, of business that you've done. And once you get them through the doors, you've clearly impressed him enough to want them to want to stay. I think there are other clubs that probably could do that, and whether or not there are other positions that will do that as well and loan them out. But I think with the numbers that you're releasing, there's got to be some significant amount of activity going on behind the scenes. They must be confident that they can replace them all. So I would have thought the goalkeeping position is one of them as well.
Jamie, we'll discuss where the Wrexham needs to strengthen for next season in the few weeks moving forward. But whatever happens, Wrexham have to make room in the squad, as you're only allowed 25 in the Championship. That now includes goalkeepers and any loan players. Doesn't matter if they're under 21; they are now included in that 25. If they are loaned, if you own them under 21, that's fine; they're not counted. But if you loan any player, it's now included in the 25. Of the players not mentioned who are still under contract, which ones do you expect to be moved on, sidelined, to make room for the new signings that we think Wrexham are going to need?
Ooh, you bitch! What a question! What a question that is. Do you know what I think? I think just to kind of pick up on what Daz said there, I think I understand what he's saying about, you know, the release list looked quite a lot of names and therefore there's quite a lot of space. But I think if you actually look at the list of certainly senior players, there were there was a few of those players that weren't registered in our squad last year, so they weren't really taking a place. So just to slightly turn what Daz said on its head a little bit, I actually think we need to move quite a few players on that are still in contract to make more space to bring in a better quality of player. So that comes back to your question, because I think there are quite a few. I mean, look, the obvious, you know, there's an obvious couple, isn't there, straight away, which is up front, Mullin and Palmer. So, you know, let's get it out there. I think, you know, interestingly, Palmer was on, I think he was on an American TV channel at the weekend on
Yeah, he
the
was.
League One playoffs.
Yeah.
And they were chatting to him about, you know, what's your plans for next year kind of thing. And he basically said his plan is to come back and fight for his place. So that would suggest he's not going anywhere. Now, you know, this is where the club has got to make a decision, haven't they? It's one thing to say, look, we want to move player X on. We're happy for player X who's under contract. We'll happily not take a fee for him. You go away and agree a deal with, you know, your new club. The problem that you're going to have is, I think a lot of the players that are under contract at Wrexham are going to be on very good contracts, because that's how we've been able to attract these players over the last few years, is by paying them and offering them a bit more than other clubs were able to do. So the problem that you've got is with Ollie Palmer as an example, right? Realistically, and being fair to him, he could probably do League One, you know, mid lower part of League One. But are there clubs in League One that can pay him what he's earning at Wrexham? And just purely from a common sense perspective, if whatever contract he's sitting on at Wrexham, if I was being offered something else and it wasn't as lucrative as what I've got agreed already, I wouldn't move either. So that's where the club have to look at it and say, what do we want? You know, do
Even
we?
if you weren't guaranteed first team football regularly.
It depends on what. I suppose it depends on. Me personally, I'm a money grabbing git, so I'd happily sit on the bench. But I suppose you've got to ask yourself. It depends on the personality of the player, doesn't it? What's more important to you? And I suppose there's other factors that come into it then, like age, ambition. You know, you look at Ollie Palmer. He's 31, 2 now, so he is approaching the back end of his career. He's probably on the most lucrative contract he's going to get now for the rest of it. And, well, unless there is any truth in these rumours that potentially he goes to the MLS or something like that. I don't know, but you would assume that he's not going to get a better contract. His next contract with whoever it's with is not going to be better than what he's on now at Wrexham. So, you know, we spoke about this before. At these lower levels, you know, these players are not earning Kevin De Bruyne money. These are players that are not earning 25 million quid a season, you know, so yes, they're earning good livings, and I'm not arguing that at all. But they're certainly, I don't think, earning enough money that they're going to never have to work again once their relatively short careers come to an end. So I can kind of see both sides of it. I think someone like Mullin, you use Mullin as an example. I think his motivations are slightly different, because I think he will want to play. I think he will want to play football. Yes, money and the financial side of it will be important, but I think the logistics of where a potential move is and being able to play week in, week out are probably the most important things to him. But again, I saw a picture of him today on Instagram. He did a selfie out running. He's getting ready for the new season, so he might be in the same. He might be more determined than ever to want to try and come back and fight for his place. He's under contract. He's more than entitled to do that. The challenge is with the club is, what do the club want to do? Do they take those players who are still under contract and say, look, it doesn't make financial sense to buy them out, so they're going to have to see out their contract. They don't want to move, so can we afford to carry on paying their contract? But then we need to bring in a better player, so they end up just not even in the squad, because, like you've just said, Si, the squad restrictions are a lot more difficult when you go into the Championship.
A lot tighter.
You could do a whole pod on this, because I genuinely think there's a lot of, and this sounds really disrespectful, and I genuinely don't mean it to, but I think there are quite a lot of our players in our current squad that you could make a case for and say, are they Championship quality? They've been great for us when we were in National League, League Two, and League One at different levels when they've come in at different times. Elliot Lee is another name. Let's use Elliot Lee as another example. Absolutely phenomenal contribution over the last few years. Go back to the National League days, unbelievable. League Two, unbelievable. League
Carried
One,
us for that first part of League Two. He carried us, didn't he? Let's be honest.
absolutely. But League One, yes, I know he was still our top scorer on paper, but you have to really caveat that massively. And he absolutely did contribute, but nowhere near as much as he had in previous seasons. Can he contribute any more in the Championship? I don't know. And I think you could go through quite a lot of our contracted players. And
you've not talked about Will Boyle. You've not talked about Luke Bolton. You've not talked about Jacob Mendy.
No.
There's three names right there that you would look to prune quite quickly. I think.
I'm not being rude to those three, but those three that you said there straight away, as far as I'm concerned, if they are still Wrexham players when it comes to the start of the season, not necessarily in the squad, but just still on the books, I'll be amazed. I'll be flabbergasted, because the club must have had these conversations. I'm sure Parky, Mike Williamson, and the owners and whoever else have sat down. They must have had conversations around, budgets for the Championship. How seriously do they want to go at it? No matter how seriously you want to go at it, I think the bottom line is it's going to take a good couple of transfer windows, I think, and a bit of time for a natural cycle to happen. Because with the best will in the world, you could identify 10 players that are in our current squad that you could say, look, absolutely brilliant for the last couple of years, but you've got to be brutally honest, they're probably not Championship level. So here you go, here's the rest of your contract. Go off and carry on your career somewhere else, and we'll bring it. You can't do that financially. You're not going to be able to do that. So I think there's probably going to be a few names that the club probably will be prepared to do that with. There's probably a couple of players who the club hope they can move on and probably get a fee for. There's probably a few players that they hope that can move on and find new clubs that they're happy to waive a fee for. But honestly, I honestly think that in that meeting, in that room, whoever was involved in it, I honestly think they'll be talking about ideally wanting to bring in 6 to 8 players. So that's 6 to 8 players, 6-ish players at least that you've got to probably get rid of from our existing squad. And this sounds incredibly brutal, but like we said before about Fletcher, it is unfortunately it's the harsh reality. As we're progressing up the leagues, this is what happens.
It was announced this week that Wrexham Women's manager Steve Dale has resigned effective immediately. Steve took over at Wrexham Women at the end of 2021 from Mari Edwards and oversaw the team through to second in the first half of this season in charge. Before having a 2022-23 unbeaten league season and beating Britain Ferry Llansamble in the playoffs to get into the Gennaro Adran Premiership. 2 seasons in the top league saw Wrexham finishing 3rd and 4th in the league, plus making 2 Welsh Cup finals. In his statement, Steve says, after 4 fantastic seasons in charge of Wrexham AFC Women, I have made the decision to step down as manager to pursue other opportunities. I would like to thank everyone at the football club for their support during my time here, and especially to the staff and players for helping us make history with Wrexham AFC.
P.S. This is Welsh Techie's fault.
Does
I just felt victimised and bullied, and now I've had to concede. You know,
That fucking Eat More Chips podcast. I know where he lives.
Look, I think it's the right decision. He definitely should have stood down, but that's just my opinion. So there you go. Quite a surprise though that Steve has stepped down. Quite a surprise, really, that he has stepped down voluntarily. I mean, why do you think he's done this? Considering Wrexham have attained 3rd and 4th and 2 FA Cup finals.
yeah, I mean, it's a good amount of success. I mean, the cup finals back to back. I think that is not to be overlooked. I think the good run that they had 2 years ago, where also let's not forget it was a transitional period from amateur to semi-pro, which is no mean feat. I think it's a very different culture and change. So the club was changing. The success of last year was shadowed by a poor start in the league, scraped through to the cut just in the nick of time. Didn't really achieve the second half was a better half a season, competing with better teams and did better. But I don't know whether it's a stagnated period of time in terms of their quality. Some might say. The line that fascinates me is the following other opportunities, and I wonder if that's a come and get me plea, or there
Or
were
are McDonald's employing at the moment on the front counter? Or
always, yeah. I,
Sorry, Steve.
I know. I wonder if there were some opportunities coming forward, and he's had to make this decision to be able to then genuinely have those conversations, or is it a case of he feels he's done what he can, but he's now sort of by resigning. It's a public statement of I'm available for employment. Come and get me.
I mean, do you think? I mean,
he's
TNS's manager has just left. Obviously, taking TNS to 3rd. She's just left to join the English leagues. Do you think
yeah.
that's enticing him? Maybe.
Well, it's of course it's a better league. It's certainly a higher standard of game in the women's game in England, and the opportunities to be successful. There's more choice. There's more teams. I'm almost certain that even to the lower leagues of the women's game, it's reasonably, you know, obviously the top flight is well paid, very well paid, but there's the layers of the football game. I think we can't underestimate where Welsh football is in the grand pyramid of world football, and that's the men's game. We've talked about it many times. We are virtually not non-league equivalent, maybe just below. The women's game, I'm not sure how to compare us with some of the other European leagues and things like that, because we're certainly not on a par with the England game, and so there's always going to be some enticement to come and ply your trade there, whether you're a player or a manager. And if he's proven himself to maximize the possibilities out of a club, achieved cup final runs, and that's going to be a decent enough CV to get enough interest for some lower league games in England. So I would imagine that's where it is. I don't know if it's likely to be international, but that's always a possibility. But I do think that this season it did plateau a little bit. I do think that they stagnated a little bit. They brought in some quality players and still didn't quite kick on, but to his defense, I don't know what the the purse that was given to him to go, right, go and buy the players you want, go and find the players you want, bring in the quality that you want. There may still be some restrictions as to how much they're prepared to pay, how much is the women's game being invested by the club, and until they achieve maybe more consistency or even contend. I'm not saying they have to make it to Europe, because that's a really tall order when you only one team gets to go. But is that the level of success we need in order to sort of to be measured against, because of the comparison with the England game? So I don't know. I don't know where his future is. I say there was no rumbles. I gather that you're saying, the surprise to you guys was as much as anything that it doesn't feel like he was being touted. So
Well, given the way Si asked that question, I just wanted to ask: do you think it was his choice? I know that's what's been said, but do you think it was his choice?
I just think
me,
if it is his choice,
him, yeah.
Anybody?
I think if it is his choice, it's a strange choice. Why would you walk away from a club that is big? They've just come back from Hong Kong Sevens, first team outside Asia to do that, which he didn't manage. Gazoin actually managed that because it was in the 19s. Wrexham are very high profile. They're in the documentary. They have access to funds. Why would you walk away from that? Where are you going to go that is going to be better
you
than
say
that?
funds,
Is my question.
access to what? I'm not entirely sure I've seen.
Well, Mike Williamson has openly made comments saying that he wants to invest in the women's team. Rob and Ryan have said in the last 2 years they want Wrexham women to be the best women's football team in the world. You don't say things like that unless you're going to put money into it.
But they said that a couple of years ago, and I wouldn't say the spending they did last year were the telltale signs of a club with a substantial wallet willing to spend it. Now, admittedly, it could be hard to find the players who want to go to Wrexham for the whatever wage they're offering. But if there was a decent sized wallet and available some sums of money to entice some other players, I didn't see the results of that. So whether or not that's the lack of negotiation and the right incentives, but certainly if the money was there, then they didn't splash that cash in the same way as I think they could have.
I mean, looking forward, where do you think now Wrexham are going to be aiming for in his replacement? I mean, let's go pie in the sky, shall we? Ex-Wrexham player Gareth Taylor, who played for the club 2010-2011, has just left Manchester City Women as their manager. How high do you think Wrexham are going to pitch this for a new manager?
I heard that mentioned this week, and I mean, if that comes off, then that answers your question about money, because that would be a massive statement. When you look at his credentials and what he's been doing. Beyond that, I don't know who.
I mean, Daz, can you see anybody in the current Welsh setup who would move over? I can't. So it would have to be. It has to be somebody.
No, it would
fresh,
have to.
really.
It would. Yeah, it would have to come from England in that way. But like you just said, that would be a statement in terms of the finances. But I still reserve my judgment on the fact that the women's game in Wales is so poorly funded that would be a lost leader. Whatever they decide to do in that role, there's no way they're recouping that cash back by being a member of the Janeiro League. I just don't see we have the Welsh, the structure within Wales, the Football League, the cup games we've got, men and women. I've said this before, we just don't have the financial return. So it's really hard for then. I mean, if your CEO saying we really want to spend the money, that's brilliant. But I'm still dubious, because this would literally be not a token. That's a really unfair word, but because there's nothing in terms of, there's no promotion here. There's only one league, one position in Europe. Now that would be the goal. I think that has to be the goal, is getting into Europe, because that is where you can then take it further. It's the only place that any of these teams in this league can go further. So but that's a really tall order against a quality side we've just seen again from Cardiff, who again invested some money, playing some good football, and were runaway leaders in the end. Made a bit of a race of it by having a few games in hand, but generally they are the team to beat. And yes, for the first time, you have begun to beat teams like Cardiff, and so on your day you might be able to, but I still don't know where that takes you, other than title, name by name, saying we are the best team in Wales and we win that league. But going to Europe, that has got to be the goal. But there's an element of there's a ceiling. There's a ceiling, and so whether or not that ceiling is going to dictate the ceiling of who you can entice. And your man from Man City there, he's used to be, big, bigger game in terms of the level. I just don't know what, if I was him, I'd be thinking maybe going to, uh, you know, uh, not a Man City side, maybe not like a WSL, but like a lower league, not a lower league, a lower team in that league. So a Crystal Palace or a Reading or Millwall or whatever. There's probably many other teams in the women's game in England who are going to be interested in a manager or a coach of that caliber who can afford those wages before we get to the level of Wrexham. So I don't know. I would wish the ambition on all the women's teams in Wales, because it's if you build it, they will come. Maybe if you pay these people the prices and you get the right players, then the crowds will come and the attendance will go up, and then we've got some momentum. But I don't know. It's like, who blinks first? Who's going to go that silly money and just buy the league and then hope that everybody gets dragged to try and beat them? Cardiff haven't really spent that money. TNS did it in the men's game. They really did buy the league. They've spent all the money on some top players, or at least comparison to the rest of Wales. They are fringe players of the England setup who are now playing regularly in Europe every year because TNS win the men's league every year. It's is there a way that the Wrexham women can do that? Maybe, but that's an
But for me, that's
expensive.
part of the bigger problem. That's part of the bigger problem, because the men's game in Wales is not strong enough, and I fear that unfortunately the men's game will get put first, because they'll want to sort that out first, and then the women's game after that. Because unfortunately, that happens.
But
That's happened in
but
football.
but Cardiff, Swansea, and Wrexham are the exceptions because their men's teams are in a different in a different country. So so you've got that different dynamic. So almost that income stream is sort of secured because it's a very different level. Yourself and Swansea are now in Championship. Cardiff were, but they won't be for long in the other division. They'll come back up, I'm sure, but they're
Yeah.
going to get a different level of investment because of the league they're in. TNS, Aberystwyth got relegated in the men's anyway, but your Connors Quay, your Nomads, your New Towns have got relegated, but the Port Talbots, Bridgends, whatever, all of these sort of great towns with football pedigree and heritage at community-based level, they're they're in at a division of their own. And in terms of the women's game, whether it's Britain Ferry, whether it's TNS, whether it's Pontypridd, whether it's Barry, they have got a very limited pool, and that has only got so much they can do, because the income from that particular division is going to be pretty limited. So yeah, Swansea, Wrexham, Cardiff have got the opportunity to maybe to diversify some of that funds that they're getting from the men's game and the success of the name through to the women's game. We need those three teams to do some of that then, in which case, and whether or not that then cascades down through the rest of the division. But what's more likely is that you have three teams who are investing, and they will just they'll be the Celtic and Rangers
Yeah.
of their division.
Yep. Agreed.
Gaz Owen? Would he do it?
He could. Obviously, he's under 19s manager. The problem with Gaz Owen is he also has a job with the FAW as part of the licensed training. He's one of the licensed trainers for coaches getting their C's, B's, and A licenses and their pro licenses, which obviously is a more lucrative job. And he couldn't do both. He wouldn't be allowed to do both because it's a conflict of interest. So he could either be women's manager, or he could. Or unless he could negotiate something with the FAW. That's what I've been told in the past, because I said the same thing. I said, surely Gareth would be able to step up from his under-19s role, and I was told, well, no, he can't unless he resigns from the FAW. There'd be a conflict of interest. But it'd be a very good choice, I think. Be a very good choice. He knows the game. Obviously, he knows Wrexham. He knows the under-19s, which is obviously beneficial because that's your next, your next step up and whatever. So yeah, but possibly, you never know. Wrexham have finally announced the Women's Season Awards, with players being rewarded for their hard work this season. Liz Craven was being voted Players' Player of the Year, having joined last summer and taken over the number 1 jersey from Del Morgan. She's appeared 21 times in all competitions, keeping 7 clean sheets. Lily Jones won 2 awards, retaining the Young Player of the Year for the second year running and Goal of the Year for the late winner at TNS in February. She's appeared 25 times this season and scored 3 goals. No surprise in Player of the Year as newly joined member of the Eat More Chips Club, Abby Inden. Oh, bollocks!
Get in.
No surprise in Player of the Year as Abby Iddenden received this award, joining
Don't
the
you
club
dare cut
last.
that out.
I won't. Don't worry. I'm sorry, Abby. I'm really sorry. Joining the club last summer, she made an instant impact. 32 goal contributions in 25 matches, joint 4th top goal scorer, and lead in assists in the Gennaro Adrian Premier this season. Her work rate and skill has been unmatched this year. Both Lily and Abby are also nominated in the FAW End of Season Awards in both the Player and Young Player of the Season categories. Daz, some well-deserved plaudits. Any surprises with these 3 players for you?
No, not really. I mean, I think what's impressive is Lily Jones winning the title for the second year running. I keep forgetting she's that young. I even when she talks at interview, whether it's when she's been a co-com on some of the S4C women's footage coverage of the national game, she's been fantastic on that, and she's got clearly a wise head, a really savvy football head on young shoulders. And then when you see her interviewed for the documentary, I just kind of forget. Is she still? I want to say 19. Is she
Something like that. I think
19
19, yeah, 19 to 20, I think, because she's still in college, wasn't she?
Yeah,
Full well speaker as well, which is great. Which is fantastic.
yeah.
No,
she's been great, and just the honesty as well in those interviews that when they lost the cup final and things like that. There was just some fantastic honesty and stuff. So I like her a lot. She seems like a really savvy, sort of, you know, um, an understanding of the game, knows what the team needs to be achieving and what it means to be or local, or within growing up as a Wrexham fan. So I think that's been a worthy winner there. Of course, our favourite Abby Iddenden is absolutely, without question, player of the season in terms of quality. What an amazing addition! Pace, strength, touch. The goal, which we've been touting her for, like, goal of the season and stuff like that, with a couple of options. The skill is there, and has dragged the team through to results on occasion. So a fantastic result. And as much as you're lining me up for something that I don't want to be saying, but Liz Craven, goalkeeper. I mean, what are you trying to tell me? Am I supposed to say that she doesn't deserve it or anything? Is that what you want me to say? Because that's not true at all. That's not true.
Not put words in your mouth.
And
I, to be honest, I think she's been she's been superb this season. She really has.
she has.
She's made some fantastic saves, and it's really been starting to be a presence. She's really starting to command the back. And when you've got players like Karen Allen in there who are quite, they are the
Yeah.
leaders. For her to then find her voice amongst that, I think has been nothing but miraculous.
Yeah, no, I think the number of clean sheets she's had, the the performances in general. I think as anybody knows, listening and watching this pod, I have been critical of goalkeepers in general. I do think that there's an element of
Hey, what?
Yeah, I know, shock, horror, but I, it's a tough, and it's not criticism of individuals. It's just the makeup of the game, the way that it's played. It's a really tough position to play, especially when a lot of these goalkeepers don't have the height and and it's then reliant on a lot of agility and stuff. And I do think that Liz has been really, really good for the team. And like you say, a commanding voice. As much as you've got leaders on the pitch, when you've got somebody at the back who sees the whole game in front of them, that's the joy of the goalkeeping position, is you see the entire game unfold in front of you. To be vocal, to hold your own in that position, and command. And they'll say there was beginning of the season with we were talking about how unorganized the Wrexham defense was, and then there was a noticeable shift, and I do think that Lizzie Craven was part of that. So yeah, congratulations to her too. But all three very worthy winners, and yes, and it doesn't surprise me that you've got a couple of nominations then into the league awards as well, because that's a minimum. I do think those two particularly, that's a minimum. They should be in there.
Well, the football may have finished. The Stoke Kairas and the club off the pitch is busy being transformed for life in the higher leagues. Over the last few weeks, the pitch has been fully removed, the dug down, new drainage and undersoil heating has been laid, and a hybrid stitch pitch is due to be installed. The video scoreboard in the tech end has been removed. The dugouts are moving from the Wrexham Lager stand across the pitch to the Macron stand, ready for when the players' changing rooms move to the new Cop stand. Safe standing is being installed in the tech end from top to bottom, and 3/4 of the temp Cop is still standing, with rumours that some temporary seating may be left in place for next season to ease the requirements for tickets. Wrexham also signed a 17,000 square foot unit lease in Eagles Meadow Shopping Centre to house the new main club shop, serving both loyal fans and followers of the club. Plans for the shop to include a space reserved for fans and local community, as well as the installation of a content creation area. Jamie, what are your thoughts on what's happening at our beloved Stoke Kairas at the moment?
Christ, we've only been off for a week and there's like a month's worth of news there. Yeah, it's exciting, isn't it? I mean, the pitch, as revealed in the documentary, £1.7 million is that is the figure that's been put on that new pitch. Christ, I think Wrexham have spent more on grass in the last few years than Snoop Dogg has in his lifetime, to be honest with you. Because the amount that this is the third pitch now, isn't it, since Rob and Ryan have been there.
Yeah. But this has got a much longer shelf. This has got a shelf life of about 10 years, apparently. So,
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, ultimately, this is bringing the spec up to top level, isn't it? You are talking about the creme de la creme here, but improving the drainage, putting undersoil heating in should limit obviously any issues with hopefully games being called off and things like that. I think the pitch is moving slightly as well, isn't it? They're moving it slightly towards the Cop area. But yeah, great. I mean, obviously the only thing with the pitch is I have heard or read that there's a suggestion that we've put a request in to the EFL to have our first game away to give the pitch as long as possible to bed in, which would make sense. But hopefully it all goes well. Can't wait to sort of see the finished article. The dugouts moving. We knew that was happening. Obviously it'll be so weird. It'll be so strange to have the dugouts on that side. But makes sense. The scoreboard's an interesting one. Obviously, I spotted it. You didn't. You blind ass git when we were at the end of season awards. But that'll be interesting to see whether anything appears for next season. I'm going to maybe guess it'll be one of those temporary on the back of a van screens somewhere or there won't be anything for next year, and obviously they'll wait for the Cop. I think the big one for me is the Cop. Like you just said there, I'm flabbergasted that 3/4 of it is still in place, because I was very much of the opinion or under the understanding of, as soon as it was possible, i.e. there was no talk of playoffs, that thing would be pulled down because they would want to start on the new one, because as far as we're still aware, it has to be there and functional by July 2026, which is now just over 12 months away for the Under-19 Championship. So unless there's something that we're not aware of, something's changed, I'm flabbergasted. However, I, like you, have also heard that the rumor or suggestion that they might be looking at keeping a portion of the temporary COP in place, certainly for the beginning part of next season, to offer some more tickets, which because it affects us, because we talked about it a few weeks ago, obviously our situation. If we can keep any extra seats for a period of time into next season, and hopefully then there's something going on behind it, then great. My only slight concern at the moment is it's gone very, very quiet again on the COP. And where are we at? What's kind of happening? Because I genuinely thought we would have seen something happening by now. So that's an interesting one. And then the club shop that you mentioned, great. I think that's a great move. We know that the town is very much feeding off the popularity of the football club. I know there've been pop-up shops in Eagles Meadow over years gone by, which have been just that. They've been pop-ups and have disappeared. I think if we can have a city town centre based sort of mega store, I think that will be great, because I think there'll be enough interest to keep it going. And then hopefully that then will also then be subsidised by a new club shop built into the new COP, which we're led to believe is part of it. The content creation bit is interesting. I'm not quite sure what that's about, whether that's something for the club or fans or whatever. But maybe
we can do a live episode there. We'll ask the club nicely and say, we want to do a live episode from the club shop.
I am not using Wrexham's content creation area to do the floss so I can put it on TikTok. I'm not doing it. No, but hey, look, it's all good stuff, isn't it? It's all positive. It's all moving in the right direction. I think it was touted on the documentary. I can't remember who said it and what episode they said it, but there was a comment along the lines of, it sounds crazy to say it, but the on the pitch football club is moving a lot faster, and has moved a lot faster than we A, expected it to, and B, can handle. It's a great situation to be in. I'm just looking at it purely from a selfish point of view, and I know there are a lot of other Wrexham fans in the same boat, that as it stands, my ability to be able to go and watch them live is going to be severely hampered because of a lack of available seats. It's a great position for the club to be in, but obviously they're going to want to address that as soon as possible. So, yeah, be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, it's all good.
Come and see the Reds with me, and you will swear that you have seen a vision. We don't just know they feel when they beat me life and feel. We're off to the second division.
Cymru Women have their final two games of Nations League A campaign as they meet Denmark at the Odense Stadium on Friday the 30th of May, kick-off at 6:15 p.m. BST, and then back home to play the last game versus Italy at the Swansea.com Stadium on Tuesday the 3rd of June, kick-off at 6:30 p.m. BST. Cymru Women are currently bottom of the league with 2 points, 4 points behind Denmark in third. Realistically, Cymru need to beat both of these sides to even have a chance of getting in a relegation playoff game, but it's highly likely they'll finish bottom and get relegated back to League B. Cymru lost 2-1 versus Denmark and 1-0 versus Italy before drawing twice with Sweden. All of these games showed great improvement with the national side. Wilkinson has named a strong side, with Liverpool forward Kerry Holland returning after a leg injury while playing in the last Cymru game, which was not as serious as first thought. Record cap holder Jess Fishlock and striker Kayleigh Barton have also returned to Wilkinson's squad for the upcoming Nations League matches. But experienced goalkeeper Laura O'Sullivan-Jones does not feature after sustaining an ACL injury, which has also ruled her out, unfortunately, of the Euro 2025 campaign. 18-year-old Aston Villa keeper Sophia Kelly has been called up in her place, one of 3 uncapped teenagers, along with fellow shot-stopper Poppy Soper and Bristol City forward Tiana Tazar. Manchester United's once-capped 18-year-old midfielder Mared Griffiths is also included. Daz, 2 important games for the Cymru women. It'll be really tough to avoid relegation, but how do you think they'll do in these tough 2 last games?
Yes, it's interesting listening to Ariane Wilkinson recently in her her assessment of this tournament, because she's using it exactly how we imagined she would. She is using this as a real testing ground for her management, her team, her squad, her rotation of teams, formations, and everything, looking at the tournament in the summer as the priority. So, as much as we have been excited and elated that they have returned to Group A for this Nations League tournament, she's been very honest about saying this is about learning. This is about utilizing some high quality opponents, opportunities to play against the best, test ourselves against these teams in different ways. And I do recognize that the formation, the choices made on the pitch have varied, and so I feel confident that she's learning a lot about the team and has used them as a way of preparing for this major tournament. Now, she's recently said she's not going to waste these opportunities again. So we've got this game against Denmark, and then we've got Italy, 2 quality sides. And as much as he says, there's an apology almost in there that if they do end up getting relegated, then so be it. They have enjoyed the opportunity of playing against the A teams, but it was about being ready for the tournament. And that first game against the Netherlands uh, in Switzerland, and I like I like the honesty. I like the transparency. I don't think any of us are sort of surprised by it, but there's but equally, she said, I'm not wasting this opportunity though. I'm not going to throw this game. This is not going to be an experimental group and just throw caution to the wind. It's still going to be as a considered team, but there will still be opportunities for her to learn. And yes, we've lost some key players in the sense that Laura Sullivan has been a great goalkeeper for us over the time. But then, didn't Safia Middleton Patel have an amazing game last time around as well? So,
Incredible.
so we
Yeah,
know
incredible.
that when the team needs to step up, there's depth in the squad, and that's important. Knowing that Kerry Holland is back, then the injury wasn't as significant. As we know, we're huge fans of her on the pod, and the impact she has on whichever position that she gets chosen to play in. And yes, having the veterans back is going to be a huge boost to the squad, even if they don't play, even if they're just going to be fringe players, even if they come on as impact subs. I don't think Jess Fishlock will care 1 second if she does that, if it means getting the team ready for being ready for a tournament, because she understands her place in this team. As much as she's um, our figurehead in terms of the team. So I think it's good. I think it's good. So
I got Jess today for my album. By the way, I bought a pack of stickers and I got Jess in my sticker pack. So
that's
that's good for me.
the sign. That's a sign.
So
No,
are you gonna be down the park with your shinies doing swapsies at the weekend? Are you?
not
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 when
not since.
unless I want to get arrested.
I was going to
No.
say not since the last time he's been told he's not allowed to do that anymore.
Yeah.
It doesn't
It's
matter
just an
what you
excuse
call
to
it.
buy chocolate, isn't it? That's all it is. It's just an excuse to
Yeah,
buy
it
chocolate
is.
from the
Yeah,
shop.
no, yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly it.
But I
Yeah,
also
that's
like the fact
exactly
that she's
right.
named some some a lot of 18-year-olds, a lot of uncapped players. She's giving opportunities to players who are achieving at club level, who are merited, on merit, and that's exciting as well. And even if they don't get to play, that's being part of the squad. Now it sounds like Wilco's got a pretty good idea of who she wants to travel with her to Switzerland. Injuries pending. Hopefully, Sophie Ingle will be back. Huge influential player that
50-50. She's 50-50 at the moment. Apparently, she's
yeah,
50-50. So
yeah. Which
close.
we, and don't forget, we took Joe Ledley to France in 2016, 50-50 without having a broken leg literally a couple of weeks beforehand, and look at the impact he made. So
Absolutely.
you
Yeah.
could take a 50-50 player with you and hope that by one game, if not the second or the third game, be there to make the difference. So, because we know it's we've talked about the group of death that we're in this tournament, when nobody's expecting us to achieve much. So just to compete. But that's what I think we've learned, though, is that this tournament is that by playing against Sweden, drawing twice, narrowly losing to Denmark and Italy both times recently, I think we've proven ourselves to be capable and competitive, and I don't expect any difference in these next two games.
Jamie, 2 draws, 2 losses, but that doesn't really tell the full story for me because the performances were excellent. We only lost to Italy 1-0. We only lost to Denmark 2-1, neither of which was a hammering, which was often had in the past against these kind of League A sides. Have you seen a marked difference since the last time Cymru women played at this League A level?
Oh, for sure. I mean, they unquestionably they would have hoped for better results, but I think they'll take a lot out of the level of performances against the quality of sides they've been playing against. It was always going to be a huge challenge when you look at the sides that they're playing against in this League A. But I think, like Daz said before, I think quoting what Ryan Wilkinson said, I think there's probably an expectation. They were never going to come out and say it, but there was probably an expectation that it was always going to result in a relegation at this sort of first time of asking, because it was quite a big step from what they've been doing previously. But I think it'll be invaluable experience for the players. I know international players, players chop and change, but there's still a core structure to an international squad, and there's this a core group of players subject to injury that play most games. And I think the experience they will have gained in the last few matches, playing home and away against your Denmarks and your Italys and people like that, and the quality that you're playing against, it will long term, it will be beneficial for them. I have no doubt, but 100% there's a, in my opinion, from the bits I've seen, I haven't seen all the games in entirety, but from what I have seen, I think they're definitely a marked improvement over the last time.
Daz, no points on it, but score predictions: Denmark away. Couldn't you see us getting anything from that? Italy home? Can you see us getting anything from that?
Getting anything? Okay, I can see us scoring away against Denmark. I can't envisage a win. Whether or not we can hold them to a draw, I think that would be a hell of a result. That'd be a great result. But I know we can score against any of these teams on any given day. So there is that potential. So whether it's a 1-1, something like that, maybe, and I would take that all day long. I think Wilco would take that as well, because equally, obviously, if they lose this game, that's it. Then they're relegated out of League A. So a draw will require different results to happen with Italy. So it's not a given that's relegation straight away, but it's almost certain if they draw. So the win is important. So they're going to try. They're going to try their best. But like Wilco said, she's not going to sacrifice this opportunity for the benefit of the team for the preparations for the summer. So she will make some of those choices. And it's a shame, really, because obviously staying in League A is a huge part of being an easier draw then for the 27 World Cup qualifiers, to get to Brazil. So, there's a lot riding on it. But can we get a result against Italy at home? Maybe. I think Italy were very, let's not underestimate. We only lost 1-0 against Italy away. But we were under the cosh for a good amount of that game. It surprised me that it's only stayed at 1-0. But so let's not underestimate the challenge there is. But I don't know, a home crowd. I know it's at Swansea, not Cardiff, but still, Swansea Stadium will be bouncing. I think it'll be the last game before they then go away to play against the Netherlands with less than a month later. So it is genuinely a major tournament warm up. So I do imagine a good presence in terms of the crowd. I don't know. I could see a sneaky result against Italy, and again, a draw would be honourable. A win would be fantastic, and you never know at home. So prediction on that one. I still imagine the best we can get is a 1-1 draw against the Italians, I think. But you never know. Potentially a home win.
It's back. The $1 million TST Soccer Tournament kicks off for its third outing as football fans descend on Cary, North Carolina, as 48 men's teams and 16 women's teams battle it out to see who can take home the prize. 7-a-side on a smaller pitch with no offsides, rolling subs, 2 20-minute halves, followed by the first team to reach the target score, while a player is removed from each side every 5 minutes. Additional rule changes compared to regulation football include the prohibition of sliding tackles, the prohibition of drop kicks by the goalkeeper, and throw-ins being replaced by indirect free kicks. Wrexham have a men's team and a women's team representing the club. Wrexham men are in Group F, playing Real Atletico, a squad of ex-football, baseball and basketball players, on Wednesday, 4th of June, kick-off 3 p.m. BST. UK Premier League side AFC Bournemouth, we play at 12 midnight BST on Thursday the 4th. And the CONCACAF Soccer Club, led by sports personality Pat McAfee, returning to the soccer tournament in 2025 at 10:30 p.m. BST on the same day. The top two plus the best third places make up 32 teams in the knockout stage. Wrexham women are in Group WB and they play Ultrain FC, a team created by a soccer app manufacturer, at 8:30 p.m. BST on Thursday 5th of June. Drunken Monkeys, founded to give players from all walks of life a platform to be seen. They aim to break barriers, inspire confidence and create pathways for women in the game worldwide. I took that from their website. At 1 p.m. BST on Friday the 6th. And Kansas City 2, a spin-off of the KC Current side, making its debut at the tournament at 10 p.m. BST on the same day. The top two from each group in the women's go through to the knockout stage. Of recognisable players for Wrexham, the men's squad contains first-team players Aaron James, Harry Ashfield, Callum Edwards, Tom Kelly, and Academy Player of the Season Alex Moore. Returns by George Boyd as a guest and coached by David Jones. Ex-players Jake Hyde, Liam McAlinden and recently retired ex-captain Ben Tozer all play for Wrexham Red Dragons. Add ex-Cymru international James Chester and Premier League winner Mark Albrighton out to fill the club. Wrexham women have less recognisable names. Only retired goalkeepers Del Morgan and Llandido's finest Mia Roberts are the only ex-Wrexham players in the squad. The rest are made up from other nationalities from around the world. Jamie, right, with the men's side only containing under 19 first-team players and the women's side no first-team players whatsoever, should they really be called Wrexham?
Well, the Wrexham Red Dragons, aren't they? So it's yeah, I don't know. I mean, this competition is, we've talked about it the last couple of years, haven't we? It's a bit of fun. It's a bit of fun. I mean, um, it's an interesting thing to watch. I think we've said before that the most exciting bit is when you get to that TST bit at the end. The rest of it can be a little bit odd. Some of the teams and you know the names and the players and one of them. I mean, obviously, I saw the squad announcements for Wrexham this week, and I didn't really know what to expect, really. But I suppose it was interesting to see the likes of McLinden and Jake Hyde and certainly Ben Tozer being involved. I don't, for me, I think with this, I think the club probably look at this as just an extension of the marketing machine over in America. I don't know what kind of publicity, what kind of interest this gets stateside. We've seen it, and we can see that the games are pretty well spectated. Spectated at, and certainly the Wrexham fixtures have always been well attended. But then we've no real idea what kind of capacity. So I mean, it could be 100 people. It makes it look a lot. It could be 100 people. It could be 1,000 people. We just don't know. But there's obviously enough interest in it that they keep putting the tournament on, and it keeps growing. And the women's one is interesting. I found that quite interesting with the players that are involved, because, like you said, there's no first team players involved. I wonder whether that was influenced slightly by the the performance in the pre-season tour last year had any sort of impact on that. I don't know. Yeah, look, like I say, this tournament for me is just it's a bit of fun. It's something a bit different. It scratches a little bit of an itch of something football related in the close season, but I won't be getting up crazy o'clock to watch it. I haven't got a clue who half of these teams are. I mean, what do you say, drunken monkeys? Oh, I mean, that's the only name you reeled off that I knew is that Pat McAfee, and I only know him because of WWE wrestling. But other than that, a lot of the people I've never heard of. But yeah, bit of fun.
Andy Carroll is playing for a side I noticed today, so that's quite interesting. Daz, Jamie intimated to it there. Wrexham women sent out a fairly full squad of first-team players last year and got an absolute mauling, as we saw in the first episode of the documentary. This year, one just retired player and one player who hasn't played for Wrexham in nearly 2 years. I mean, do you think that's Wrexham's way of protecting the first-team women by basically saying...
Two different things, though. Don't forget the documentary. That was the pre-season tour, wasn't it? You're right. Got hammered.
You're right. Sorry, yes, you're right.
I think your question's right in the sense of has the kind of humbling that they got in the pre-season tour has that had an impact on their decision not to send any existing first-team players?
Having remembered how bad.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Thank you for your correction. Yeah, yes.
Thank you, Roger Cook. Thank you.
I think it's a valid point because obviously remembering back to how poor the start the season was it 2 years ago or
last year? No, it was last year.
It was. I think remembering, the poor start and the documentary reminded us of that. There was obviously a fallout, some sort of dip in that performance. Can it be attributed to their preparations and their international travels being part of that? Probably. We're guessing there's probably an impact. So I do think some of these, away trips are not necessarily good preparation. I think the focus is different. The environment is different. The format of this game is not conducive to the game that they're going to be playing in the main season anyway. As much as we love the silly nature of the +1 goal thing at the end, Uber multi-ball system, that whatever it is we want to call it, it is uniquely. It's bespoke to this tournament. It's nature of it. It appeals to it plays to the strengths of others teams, and I think what are we asking them to do as part of this in terms of, is it a warm-up? Is it just a marketing ploy? Absolutely. But you've got teams there who play this. We talked about it last year. If this is their bread and butter, let them win it. I mean, you're right. It must be popular because what's the prize money? $2 million or something? So
it's $1 million, isn't it?
Million. Well, $1 million for the men, $1 million for the women.
Right. So so there's clearly some money in it, and it has some appeal. But it's not the beautiful game that we're familiar with, is it? So I sense that it's not on their priority list in the same way. And if they don't obviously make it a priority and send, you may wonder whether or not they'll get an invite next year. Or is it just because the name Wrexham, the documentary, Rob and Ryan alone will always mean that you get that invite in the post because it has a certain appeal. You might do okay out of it, and then if it generates an income, if it carries on that publicity, then why wouldn't you send somebody? But it doesn't feel like a meaningful practice and preparations for the upcoming season to me.
Come and see the Reds with me, and you will swear that you have seen a vision. We don't just know they feel when they beat me like a feel. We're off to the second division.
And there you have it. We've washed the sand out of our bit until next week, so we'll be on our way. We've been the Eat More Chips podcast, the official podcast, one of the greatest Welsh supporters flags in the universe. If you have enjoyed listening to us, please support the podcast, like, subscribe, and leave a comment. You can find us on audio at Spotify, Apple, and YouTube Music. You can also go into our social media, such as X, Threads, and Blue Sky, at Tweet More Chips, or drop us an email, eatmorechipspodcast, all one word, at gmail.com. Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, Eat More Chips Podcast, and on Facebook, search for the Eat More Chips Podcast group. You can leave us a review if the platform you're listening on lets you do so, and if you have anything you'd like us to discuss, please feel free to drop us a line. Our thanks, as always, to the North Wales folk band The Harvesters and their 1978 Wrexham football song. As always, my thanks go to the two powerhouses of this pod. Sorry, shithouses of this pod. So, thank you, Jamie.
You're welcome.
And thank you, Des.
I think you're welcome. I'm not sure. I don't know if we always merit the sign-offs we get.
I'll take being called a power shithouse, no problem.
Anyway, until next time, come on, Cymru, and come on the town.